again as that ever-turning wheel of Dharma is turning and shining like a brilliant sun through the beautiful wisdom and compassion of our precious teachers, equally, let our heart's inspiration, turn and flow. And so again, as we begin anything within the beautiful transcending loom of our practice of study, contemplation, and meditation, connecting with these elements of, resettling into our core motivations and core practice of our renunciation, our joy, devotion. And then as much as that, really the big cause for enlightenment, thinking of enlightenment itself and sincerely wishing for ourselves and every living being to attain the state of liberation and true peace. And then as much as we can, connect with our deep trust and confidence in the true goodness qualities of every aspect of reality. And so before our practice time today, we have this little time to kind of reflect on the teachings. And of course, the whole point of reflecting on the teachings is to soften up our minds and hearts and really connect clearly with our mind and our heart with our practice. And like all the great masters have told us, given us lots of homework to do, but definitely said again and again, in order to really realize our own potential, the really beautiful potential of this truly precious human birth, with all the freedoms and endowments, in order to realize that potential, we really shouldn't dawdle or hover, in kind of the state of not really examining our situation further. So of course there's looking at our precious human birth, all its freedoms and endowments. The other thing that kind of really can block us from realizing our potential is really not looking clearly at impermanence. So, right, that's the second thought that turns the mind toward the Dharma, helps us move past our assumptions and kind of unrealistic expectations towards not only to see what they are, but see how they don't really hold up under investigation, and also naturally turn our mind towards what is reliable, which is ever presently there as a support, which is what? Nothing but our true nature, right? And so impermanence, even in the time we have, we're giving just a certain amount of time to talk about this. So it's a really big subject, but I guess my point is, I'll talk a little bit about, kind of reviewing, not just, of course, it's not just my thoughts, but these are what has been handed to us by all the great lineage masters, in our beautiful lineage, as a framework for each one of us, myself, you, all of us, to really investigate and do these contemplations. So I think I'm just going to really, for time's sake, go over the main framework that we're given according to the lineage, according to like the lineage of Pato Rinpoche, Khenpo Tsewang Rinpoche, Khenpo Khenpo Tsewang Rinpoche, Dudjom Rinpoche, just to name a few, right? So we've all heard and we've all seen to some degree how everything is impermanent. Nothing is permanent. And one of the main ways that can really hit us home is really realizing our own mortality. That each one of us is going to die. Each one of us will pass away. To really feel that in our hearts. Again, not just to be stuck there, but to just realize truly, like deeply in our bones, in our heart, that that's just a fact of life. And we have the beautiful Dharma and these other practices which are helping soften our assumptions that we're always going to be here, things are always going to be the same, to what's more true and more reliable for us to kind of rest our awareness and our experience within, right? So then within that, the masters give us kind of these three main ways of just doing some investigation, each one of us. So there's just looking at the impermanence of the outer universe, the universe in which each one of us exists or feel we exist and share. The impermanence of not only the outer universe in which we exist, but each one of us, the impermanence of ourselves and every being that exists in this world at this time, every being who's come before us, every being who will come after we're long gone. So the impermanence of all the beings who exist in the universe. And that, even though then, the third really big homework is to really contemplate the impermanence of, or not the impermanence, but the uncertainty, even of when we'll die. We might know that we're impermanent and it might be obvious that we might die, but that we don't know when that will be, where it will be, how it will be. So as far as the impermanence of the outer universe, again, I don't have the time, nor do I have the memory to go through every detail that the Buddha laid out in just how this, the Buddha taught this universe in which we exist, that feel we exist in this moment. It wasn't always here. And the Buddha really lays out, you can find this like in Words of My Perfect Teacher, in the commentaries on the Word of My Perfect Teacher, in many different, places, the description of just literally how this universe wasn't always here, and these in and between the moment of not being, coming into existing, developing, kind of sustaining, decaying, and then just completely releasing into emptiness, into space again. These immeasurably, inconceivable for us spans of time in which this whole universe has sprung into being and currently existing and will come to an end. Just like this world itself, this solar system, this planet, even if we're looking at the more kind of Western scientific vision, wasn't always here. We weren't always here. And also this solar system, this galaxy, will at some point fall apart. So the point here the Buddha's really getting us at is to really look at these, like think about it. But the real point, I think, of really looking at the impermanence of the outer universe is not only is it just this universe, but all the infinite universes that have ever sprung forth out of pure space. No matter how long they've existed, they all don't last forever. so within that, right, there's just even this world, our own little lives, is just the twinkling of an eye. But again, not just thinking it, but I'm just trying to, like, for myself, and hopefully you kind of reflect a little bit on that. And the impermanence of all we beings who exist in the universe. Again, all of us, no matter where, like the Buddha pointed out many times, we're all bound to die. You know, like there's this, in one of the sutras where there's a woman whose son has died and she's asking the Buddha to please bring him back. And then he said, you know, you go to every house and ask if anyone has ever not experienced death. So we're just really thinking about that. Think about all those we've known in our lives who are gone. Think about all those who've come before us who are gone. Not only we more ordinary beings pass away, but even the great holy beings have passed away. Just think, within this fortunate kalpa, Buddha Shakyamuni came forth, but before him, other Buddhas have come. They've had whole retinues. Their profound teachings have spread and been practiced, ripened many beings to, arhathood and bodhisattvas and onward. And nothing of their teachings remains, not to mention themselves in the ordinary sense. And then within this time of the teachings of Buddha Shakyamuni and the world, even Buddha Shakyamuni displayed Mahaparinirvana and passed away. Thankfully, those teachings remain. So many of the great masters, who even had the power, to, turn fire into water, water into fire, walk through mountains, fly through space. They've all displayed passing on as well. So the impermanence of ordinary beings, the impermanence of holy beings, the impermanence of powerful beings, such as even the gods, Indra, and so on. Even the gods are subject to death, no matter how powerful. Even within our humanity, these, all kinds of great emperors and empires have come and gone, had great power and great renown, and now maybe there's so many that no one even knows the name of, or maybe only the name of. And of course, then there's also other ways that are maybe a little bit more direct for ourselves. Some of these are just really looking in the vista, looking in every direction, just seeing how impermanence, how everything is always changing, never stopping. Here in an instant, gone in a flash. including other things we can look at, such as looking at the seasons, looking at the minutes. 1 minute passes to the next minute. The hours go by. The sun rises. The sun sets. Days go by. Moons go by. Years go by. Life goes by, like sands in the hourglass. So are the days of our lives. Our communities, you think of even within our own Sangha or within our families, our neighborhoods, our circles of friends in life. Just looking at that, how much has changed from the times we were little kids up until teenagers, up into, I don't know, we're all at different stages of our lives, but the people who were around us and important at every stage of our lives. Where are they now? And what are our relationships now? So looking just at that, just seeing like how much have just our own communities changed. Like even within our own Sangha right now, how many people who were here 5, 10, 2, 20 or more years ago, how many are still with us? How many are, being born too? And then our relationships, the changeability of just our relationships, of like this, our situations with each other, the ways in which we relate to each other as friends, whether it's a friendly connection, a trusting connection, or a more, challenging kind of connection, how much that can change. If we just think for ourselves, maybe people who we met and we had a lot of like hard knocks and misunderstandings and bumping up against each other and challenges with, understanding and patience and all those things. And now, who knows? We all, I think, can know that can easily change into deep, close, trusting appreciation and friendship. And likewise, it can go equally the other way, too. Go from a trusting, close relationship where we share a lot, and then things change. Good fortune can end in poverty. Poverty can lead to fortune. Everything's always coming, going. Everything that comes together ends in separation, right? Everything built up will be dispersed. These are the truths, the facts of life the teachers, the Buddhas pointed us towards. And then it's important too, I think, even within our own practice, we all experience change and impermanence and instability, right? We can have really, really clear, lucid, heartfelt practice. We can have a practice session where it's very dull, heavy, uninspired, So even within the continuum of our own practice, we all firsthand experience those changes between clarity and confusion, trust and doubt, lesser and greater degrees of joy, devotion, bodhichitta, that's heartfelt. But the important part as practitioners, right, with all of this, is we're looking at all of this and we're continuing to practice to reach what? To reach the changeless state, to reach what's true and beautiful, the holy Dharma. So just remembering too that the reason we're practicing is to move beyond samsara. With bodhicitta, of course, not as an escape, but to recognize within all of this change, we need to witness that change. We need to witness impermanence and kind of the unreliability of appearances as long as we have ignorance, hope, and fear. And we need to keep practicing with our courage and commitment, because of course we all know it, but the more we look at these kind of facts and like the four thoughts, the more we have a heartfelt sense of our own mortality and how precious this moment is, and of the inevitability of karma, and really feel and see in our own direct perception how samsara is never perfect. So we're trying to move beyond samsara, turn our mind toward the Dharma for that reason. So like the Buddha said, it's very famous, we've said it many times, the beautiful quote of how the Buddha said, of all the footprints of the animals, the elephant's is supreme. Of all the kind of mental investigations we could do, impermanence is supreme. The mighty giant elephant's footprint is the biggest, deepest, makes the biggest impression among all the animals. And contemplating, investigating the truth of impermanence in every aspect of our lives, and again, not only having that be an intellectual thing, but feeling that truth is supreme, the Buddha said. Is why? It's because it's pointing our mind towards the Dharma, turning our mind towards the Dharma. So I thought, maybe in another time we can look a little bit more at karma, how karma happens, interdependence. But the point too, like Mipam Rinpoche says, and many of the great masters, our own precious teachers, turning our mind toward the Dharma through the method of really seeing the reality to our own ordinary sentient being perception. Looking at impermanence is going to reveal to us, it's the doorway to having a direct perception of the great emptiness. The great emptiness, that's beyond any conception. The Dharmakaya state of our own mind. The nature of everything, of all phenomena that appears. Like the Buddha says, there's also the famous quote, like clouds, fire rings, magical displays, hallucinations, dewdrops, bubbles, fire rings, etc. Thus are all compounded things, illusory, a web of interdependence. And when we look at interdependence, where does it begin? Where does it end? That we can look at another time. But the point here also is that I want to follow is that thread of how looking at impermanence can usher our minds into the direct perception to our ordinary minds of the great emptiness. And then there's just a beautiful quote from the Buddha that's along those lines of kind of the benefit. Again, we're looking here at the benefits of really taking to heart impermanence. starting to reveal to our ordinary minds the great emptiness, the great Dharmakaya ground, and our Buddha nature, right? So I'm reading this from Tinley Norbu's book, The Cascading Waterfall of Nectar, which is his a commentary on the Dudjom Tersar Ngondro. But he lists from the Sutra of Parinirvana, so from the Buddha. For whoever harvests fields, the best is to have found a field with crops. Among all impressions, the best is the perception of impermanence and death. Why? Because the perception of the three realms will be diminished. Meaning that, obviously, like I think a lot of what I was just trying to go over, the more we look at the nature of it, the less we see it as being permanent. The less we see it as permanent, we realize the illusory nature of it all. And kind of soften our assumptions and habitual patterns of thinking things are solid, permanent, independent. And then furthermore, he gives another quote from the Buddha, from the Sutra of Revealing the Three Kayas. Dharmakaya is the permanence of the essential nature as it is. Sambhogakaya is constant permanence. Nirmanakaya is uninterrupted permanence. Pointing our mind toward direct perception of the true nature, the three kaya state. To the Dharma, turning our mind towards the Dharma. So then I'll say, there's another beautiful quote here from the Uttara Tantra. The Lord of Dharma, the Dharma, annihilates the demon of death, impermanence. Why? Because the Dharma is unborn, and it is thus the permanent protector of the world. And then I'll just read one more. From the Uma Jukpa. Body of peace, the wish-granting tree, ever radiant, like a wish-fulfilling jewel with no conception, permanently endures in this world until all beings are liberated. So again, we're just pointing out, the Buddha's pointing out, through really taking to heart impermanence, looking at change, looking at how everything is ceaselessly ceasing, always changing, never for an instant still in any way, be it form, perception, conception, etc. By really seeing that, feeling that, bringing that home to our own fleeting life, and never knowing for a moment when it will end, how it will end, where it will end. None of that's guaranteed. Really feeling that, maybe even putting ourselves in situations where we feel that mortality, not putting ourselves in danger, but feeling that. Like for me, sometimes waking up early in the morning where none of the usual is happening in those really special times before dawn. Sometimes I really comes home to me then. I'm not saying that's the same for everyone, but don't shy away from it. Look for it. And again, think of our Guru. Think of the undying, great, ever-present, all-transcending wisdom, compassion, love, and blessings of the Buddha, of Guru Rinpoche, who are pointing out that same nature in our own mind and heart. So, maybe I'll just stop my moment there. And again, all of this is just a little reminder for us each to kind of really not ignore, what our teachers have been telling us. Really look at impermanence again and again and again and again, like they say, so we feel it, see it, and help us again then look at karma and interdependence, which is totally reliant upon impermanence and the emptiness, great emptiness state. So we'll just be silent, just like kind of rest with that for a few moments, and then with that, along with again our joy, our appreciation, our courage and commitment and big, vast bodhicitta aspirations, with confidence in the purity state of reality, we'll continue with our Ngondro practice itself. Thank you.